Hello and welcome to the Elsie Black Oral History Project. My name is Eileen Hyland. This project is all about sharing and preserving the real life stories of people living in social housing in Ireland, with a focus on Clúid housing. We want to highlight the everyday experiences, the memories and the voices of residents, the stories that often go unnoticed. It's about recognising the value of these communities and making sure their stories are heard and remembered. Today is the 14th of May 2025 and we're talking with Colm O'Carroll, who lives at Coill na Darach, Killarney in County Kerry. So Colm, I'll just ask you to introduce yourself and tell me when you were born and where you were born.
Yes, my name is Colm O'Carroll and I was born on the 2nd of December 1959 in Tralee.
In Tralee, okay. So tell me a little bit about your parents and your family setup. Who was at home? Who was in your household?
Well, I came from a family of there's 8 boys and 2 girls in the family. And my father and mother, obviously.
Okay, so it was a busy house.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. And the house you grew up in then, was that in a town or in the country?
No, it was just outside the town, it was within walking distance of the main street in Tralee.
Oh, in Tralee.
On the Listowel Road.
Right, okay. And would it have been a council house or your own house?
No, it was my mother's house. A wedding gift from her parents.
My goodness.
Yeah.
How nice is that? Okay.
Yeah, because she was an only child, or both her parents were professional people.
Right.
So my mother was, at the time, was a well-to-do woman.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, wow, okay. Mm-hmm. So is that the house you grew up in then? You just
That's
spent
the
all your
house.
childhood there?
Most of it, we spent a few years in Castlemaine, and then we spent I think I left there when I was about 4 and moved to Tralee, and we were raised there then in Tralee.
Okay,
yeah.
Okay, right.
Yeah.
So describe the house for me a little bit.
The house was a red big town, it was 3 stories.
Oh.
Red brick house.
Yeah.
Not sure. It was definitely 100 years. It was an old house, but there was 4 or 5 houses together.
Right.
And it was up a little avenue. It was called the back avenue and the front avenue.
Yeah.
Off the main street, Listowel to Tralee Road.
Okay.
And it was across from the CBS National School. And so when we came home, once you walked down the lane, you were into privacy, kind of.
Right.
Yeah.
And how big was the house? How many rooms would you have had? And
my God. Well, there was what we called the attic. There was 2 one really in the front. There was one really big room that went the extent of the length of the house.
Oh, right.
And at the back then we used to call it the attic room. And it had kind of tilted down, on the top floor. And then in the middle, there was, again, a long room in the front. And then behind that, there was another room, which was one of our bedrooms. And then you walk down a little stairs and up a stairs to the bathroom and a little room at the back.
Wow, okay.
So it was a nice design house.
Yeah. And did you have many rooms when you came in downstairs? Was there like a sitting room?
Oh yeah, there
was
a when you came in the front door to your left was the sitting room, which was really the piano. Where my mother taught music, there was 2 pianos in there. But it was only used really by men if a priest called or friends called. She used that room.
Good room.
The good room, because you did. But in later life, the other room, kind of beside it, was the main room where we all went into.
Right.
Because that's where the fireplace was.
Okay.
So you could find a gang of us in there at any time.
So you mentioned that your mum taught piano.
Oh yeah, she taught many students. My mother had what was called a licentiate back in those days. The equivalent today would be a master's in performance.
Wow.
Piano performance.
Yeah.
And so, she was a housewife really, but that was to make extra money, obviously, she started teaching. So there was always people coming in and out of the house all the time.
Wow.
And our family would have been known from music.
Yeah.
Three of my family were in the original. Father Hearn, who started up Siamsa Tire in Tralee. Three of my family were in the original show.
Right.
My brother Aidan, my sister Mary played the harp, and my sister Audrey played, I think, the piano.
Yeah.
So there was three.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's a great musical heritage, so in your family.
Yeah.
And did
we'd
your
be
mum...
known, like our family would be known with musical education.
Brilliant. Yeah.
And my brother Aidan founded the Kerry School of Music in 1982.
Amazing.
He did his masters in composition
Gosh.
under Elias Fleischman, was his lecturer. And actually Sean O'Reilly died when he was there. Padre O'Reilly, Sean O'Reilly's son, was in my brother Aidan's class.
Okay.
But his father died, I think, at the end of that year, the first year. But in fact, in the Kerry School of Music now, there is what's called the Fleischman Room,
Okay.
where they put on concerts and stuff like that within the school.
Yeah. Yeah.
But he called it after his professor.
Tutor, his professor. That's lovely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Okay.
So, anyway.
Great background. So the living conditions, that's the question here. What was it like when you grew up? Was there, obviously you had a lot of the things that you'd have in a town, because you were outside the town, so you had probably running water, you had toilets inside, did you have all those facilities?
Oh, we did, yeah. Well, we didn't have, growing up, I remember we had no, like everybody else. I think we got our first fridge, and maybe I always remember it coming into the house, and I think I would have been about 13 or 14, so going back to early 1970s. And I remember when we got the first colour television.
Okay.
So we'd only RT1, like everyone. But so that was a big deal. I remember at the time getting colour TV. And the fridge, because it meant Mum didn't have to go shopping every second day was able to put things on plates in the fridge. And that was a big revolution at the time for everybody, I'm sure.
Yeah.
For all the...
And with your mum, with a big family, I'm sure it was a great help.
Yeah,
to
exactly,
be able to
yeah.
do that, yeah.
And I don't recall the washing machine washing clothes forever.
Yeah.
In the sink.
Did she have a twin tub, maybe? I remember they were the first ones.
Actually, no. What she had was, she had a thing that you put the clothes through that would drain them out.
Oh, like a mangle, I think they call it, wasn't it?
No, what they call it.
Squeeze it.
And she had an old, for drying the clothes, she had an old, it was kind of, you had all these sticks inside, and you could put the clothes in. It was a clothes dryer, an older style clothes dryer. I'm not sure what the right name for it, but...
Clothes dryer sounds good.
Yeah,
Dry the clothes.
It wasn't like what the spinting we have nowadays.
Yeah.
You know what I'm
I think I do,
yeah.
yeah. Almost like a cupboard with heat. Was there heat or something coming through the bottom, maybe? Or
no, you put the clothes in. There was just sticks, like a bamboo type sticks.
Yeah.
And you had all these
slotted
in.
Yeah.
And then you had to hang, put the clothes in. Hang the clothes in, and I suppose the heat or whatever.
Heat dried them then, I suppose, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay.
But most of the time clothes were put out. We had a backyard then, and we had 2 clotheslines, so there was always clothes on the line.
I can imagine with that many of the family.
Yeah.
They were great people in those days, when you think about
it. Yeah, they were too busy to be getting in trouble.
Yeah. So was there a strong sense of community where you grew up? Do you remember?
Oh, very much so in Tralee. Well, at the time when I was raised, there was about 11,000 population. So you had things like, you had the Rose of Tralee, which I think the whole idea of that started in 1957. Roger Harty's bar in Tralee, their father, a few business people got together. And they came up with the idea of the Rose of Tralee, which was huge in my teenage years. You could hardly get through the town. And it was very popular, so that was one event. And they involved the people in the different sides of the town. They built the stages all for free.
Wow.
It was charitable.
Yeah.
And so there was a good sense of community from that point of view. There was also the tops of the towns.
Right.
You had different parts of the town who put on the shows, and of course there was rivalry and jealousy, and our crowd should have won, and all this sorts of business that went on. Actually, my mother was involved with, if there was any musical kind of thing like that, someone was bound to ring up my mother, and,
Right.
she did a lot of shows, you know,
Yeah, yeah.
accompanying and stuff like that. But that was another. But there was, everybody kind of knew everyone back then,
Yeah.
and so in a way, it sort of kept everyone in check as well, because there wasn't a social problem. Anyone that had problems, you kind of knew the fellas who had drug problems. It might be, I remember 3 or 4 guys that are dead now. Most of them, they were more trouble to themselves than, but they were our own people, and they just had alcohol and drug problems. But it was, you knew who had the.
Yeah.
There was only 3 or 4 people in the town, but they were harmless.
Wow. Yeah. That's great, yeah.
So there was a good community spirit in Tralee.
Yeah.
And you had the local radio station started then, and there was war over that because they were illegal at the time. But there was all drama, like there was always, and then you had Siamsa Tire, as I said.
Yeah, yeah. It was a great town, really.
Yeah, so it was a lot, and I remember growing up, like when you walked into school in the mornings, all the donkeys and carts from the farms coming in with their milk.
Really?
I remember this was before there was any, when they used milk by hand.
Okay.
And
there'd be churns, I suppose, the churns of milk.
churns of milk, yeah. So I remember that all along that street in Tralee.
Wow.
That you had, like, 40, 50 donkeys and carts and some small horses, and so it was exciting when you were a young fella. And then there was also, in Tralee you had the square, which was, I'm not sure what days, but I mean many times we'd be sent down to get veg and stuff like that. So there was an open market in the square, which doesn't exist now, which is a pity. I think every big town should have one.
Yeah, yeah.
And so I recall them kind of things. And
Right, yeah.
yeah, so it was kind of, everybody was up in the level. There was a lot of poverty around, but I think people helped each other and stuff like that. I would have been aware of poverty, and my brother Kieran opened up a fruit and veg shop at the age of 19. Very thriving business, and I worked with him for 2 years, so we got to know a lot of the people in the poorer parts of town.
Right.
And very nice people, but there were a lot of social problems as well,
Yeah, you see it all there, I'm sure.
Yeah, so that was a good eye-opener too, to see all that, So.
Yeah, great.
But you were among the people when you're in the fruit and veg shop, you get to know them.
Great. Okay, so when did you move in here? Tell me a little bit about that.
I moved in here, be 5 years next February, I think. It was in February, I remember it was February. And the only reason I know that is because the TV licence man was the first man to arrive.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And I was only in a few days, and fella knocked at the door, and he was a TV licence fella, and that was it's in kind of near the end of February, so that's when I came in.
Yeah.
So this will be next February will be 5 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
So do you want to tell me a little bit about how you came to live here? Your journey to...
It's kind of accidental, really. I just put my name down on the housing list when I turned 50. I reckon it was a good time to do it, because I couldn't see being a musician, and I wasn't going to ever, have a lot of money and stuff, and I felt I was too old. I had thought about going back to America on a few occasions because I'd lived there.
Yeah.
But then I decided not to. I said, look, I felt that I liked Ireland, having lived in America and come home. And one day I just decided that I was painting actually and decorating at the time, and I was painting in a place, and there was lots of Polish people with young children, all had houses, and I said, well, if they can get a house, I can get one.
Yeah.
So I put my name down, And for 10 years I was on the waiting list.
Wow.
And then one day I decided to go to Dun O'Grady, R.I.P. And Donald died only recently.
Was he a councillor locally?
He was, but he was kind of someone had recommended me to him.
Right.
And within 2 weeks, he had me meeting the housing from the Kerry County, a guy that was involved in the Kerry County Council in Tralee, the housing department. Because Donald was surprised they'd never contacted me.
Yeah.
But I found out afterwards the reason for that was that I was getting rent allowance.
Okay.
So they said, this guy's okay. Little did I know, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
So I got on to Donald, he made an appointment with me. And as a result, I got a few months later, I got a phone call to come in to meet
for an interview.
For an interview.
Yeah.
And that was it really. So.
Wow. So after 10 years, it kind of...
Yeah, 10 years, yeah, but I've heard that there are people that even now are longer on the waiting list. Yeah. So, but I think I was told because of, I fit the criteria for coming here because I was over 50.
Yeah.
I fit the criteria, and really it was done only for Dun O'Grady. I wasn't aware of anything.
Isn't that amazing that somebody like that can make a difference like that for you? Wow, right.
Yeah.
So what were your first impressions when you saw the place here?
Great.
Really? Yeah.
Well, I was near town. I was used to living out a few miles west of Killarney, so I could still see the mountains, and I was delighted when I got upstairs in the back room so I could look out at the mountains.
Oh my goodness, you have that view, do you, at the back?
Yeah.
That's stunning.
So, no, I was very impressed the minute I saw the apartments. So I think we're very lucky here in Killarney. Yeah. Because just the beautiful apartments, soundproof. I believe these were to be luxury apartments.
Wow. To
be sold in the private market. Yeah. So in a way we're lucky to be here, you know.
Beautiful, yeah.
But this Darach is, I mean, anyone that would complain would want to get their head examined, you know.
It's a beautiful place.
It is,
yeah. A beautiful place. So what would you say home means to you? What does home mean now? This do you feel this is your forever home now? Do you feel a sense of belonging here?
I do. Well, Kerry is my home.
Right.
Even when I was abroad, I'd always be from Kerry.
Yeah.
So my home really is that I'm near family. And I'm in communication with family all over the world. That to me is home. Like, it's not a kind of a physical place in one sense. Yeah. But I mean, who knows what tomorrow brings?
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, so.
Yeah.
But I'm happy here, definitely. Right. I mean, rent is very reasonable, and nice people around here, and I have no issues with it really. You know, very lucky really to be so near town, you know.
Yeah, it's a great location.
So it's a great location, so I think we're lucky. Yeah. And we're not isolated, which I think is important.
Yes.
From a Clú point of view, not to have people living out in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
Especially because a lot of people that live here don't have much money on social welfare. I'll be on pension myself next year. So, but I feel lucky because I think it's something that Clú should consider, is make sure that people have access to a townland or not to be stuck out in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
I think that's, you know, or else if you're out in the middle of nowhere, make sure that people that are staying in the Clú housing are from that area.
Yeah.
Don't isolate someone out in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah. And is it walkable into town from here?
Oh, very much so. I'm into town in 3 or 4 minutes.
Right. Okay.
And I walk the park. Well, most days now in the last few months. I go from here to Rosscastle and back. I didn't do it today, no, but I do quite a lot, you know.
So is Killarney National Park?
Killarney National Park.
So you have access to that here as well?
Oh yeah. Just go down to the cathedral or go to Killarney House and go in that way.
Yeah.
So there's great amenities and all that here.
That's brilliant.
So, no, even people who visit me like can't get over just the location and the quality of the building, and you know.
Yeah, it certainly
So,
is. It
yeah,
certainly
so
is
very
something special.
impressed. Yeah, very impressed with.
And you're in Kerry.
And you're in Kerry, yeah.
Okay, that's great. I suppose, let me see. What's been the biggest change for you living here as opposed to wherever you were before? So where were you living before? I forgot to ask you that.
I was living, well, I had a house out in Beaufort. I was renting a lovely bungalow actually. And
you rented that privately, just
privately, yeah, from a nice man and his wife. And she died of cancer, that's why that ended. But I was there for about 9 years.
Okay.
And I was in a place in Cork, Ahedo, which is only a few miles out at the other end of Ahedo Heights Hotel, that hill. And I lived there for another 6 or 7 years as well. So I think you get used anywhere you live.
Yeah.
Once you're there for a while. But
and were conditions okay where you were? The housing you were in before compared to here, was this a step up then, an improvement for you?
Well, the house in Beaufort was lovely and I was very happy there. But now then I had a car and I was working as a musician. So I suppose I was kind of kept busy, but it was a bit isolating. Even though I'd be a private person anyway, I don't like to get too involved unless it's something I want to get involved in. I'd be discreet. Yeah, I mean, this is a step up in terms of quality.
Just comfort, like
comfort, yeah.
Comfort
is very good, yeah.
That's good. And was there any challenges moving in here for you? Was there adjustments?
Not really. I was delighted when I saw what department I was moving into. I knew I was onto a winner, when I saw the apartment, the size of it.
Yeah.
And I said, God, it's fantastic, really.
That's brilliant.
Yeah, so I don't know about other clue places, but this one definitely should be the standard, really, for the other ones, I think.
Yeah. Absolutely. And do you think that there is a stigma associated with people who live in social housing? Would you ever have felt that you were judged or treated differently because...
No, because I'd never have judged people in social housing myself.
Yeah.
When I was growing up, we were very much aware of... in fact, I'm more comfortable around people who don't have much. I wouldn't be... the arrogance of wealth and stuff like that wouldn't appeal to me at all.
Yeah.
So, no, I find that generally people are sound enough, and so that I'd have no... some of the best people come out of,
Absolutely.
I wouldn't have any... class wouldn't... class division, all that wouldn't impress me at all. I'd have no interest in it. I take people the way I find them, and if they're nice to me, doesn't matter what background.
Yeah, that's sound. Yeah, that's great. I mean, you do see it in some places, but so you say you've never really felt treated differently yourself?
No, sure, we're in Killarney, one of the wealthiest towns in the country. So I'd have no issue with it.
Right. Okay.
No, and I think as you get older, you wouldn't anyway.
Yeah, I think that's true. I think as you get older, you care less, don't you?
Yeah,
Think about what anybody
at the end of the day, like you have a nice place to come home to, and you can lock your door.
Yeah.
And there's very little pressure on you when you have a place where the rent is reasonable. So even so I'd have no issues with. I wouldn't be impressed with anyone I wouldn't be into snobs like people like that.
Great. That's a good answer for sure.
Yeah. Well, I remember even in Tralee when I was growing up, the houses that would have been, they were all council developments, but you go in and look at them today, you say, wow, they're beautiful.
Wow, yeah.
And I never sensed that even, well, where I live now, there was, going out Hope at Listowel Road, I suppose, but even I wasn't aware of it there. I mean, but there was a bit of a class, but I never came across snobbery or even people with professional jobs. Friends of mine whose fathers were professional people, but I never got the sense of that in Tralee growing up. No.
Perfect. Yeah, great. Thanks.
You know, coming from.
Yeah, I think a lot of it is down to, like you say, your own self-belief and your own, how you treat other people too.
Yeah.
So what kind of a community existed here, would you say, when you moved in?
Well, I suppose when you come in initially, you're trying to get to know people.
Yeah.
And like I know a certain amount of people here because they do get involved. The coffee morning helps because you get to know a few people. In fact, there was a new woman came in now just last week. And but there's a lot of people that don't want to get involved with anything. Yeah. For whatever reason, you know. Which is okay too, because everybody, you know, some people just want to be left alone, you know, and that's their right, you know. Yeah. And what was the question? Sorry. But one of the
community. What was the sense of community when you came here first?
Well, it was. I mean, there wasn't at the beginning. Everyone just getting to know each other.
Right.
But it's got better. It's got a big improvement lately, actually, and I would advise Clou to do it in Alder, is the formation of the Residents Association.
All right.
And we meet once a month, and the way we've worked it out is that we have a suggestion box. We've developed our ideas as we go along, and there's 4 on the committee, but anybody can. We have a suggestion box. Our secretary Claudia, she records everything that's said. It could be just a small thing like a latch on a door when the polytunnel isn't working. But it means that John, our housing officer, gets a list from our secretary of all the things that people are bringing up.
Right.
And in fairness to John, it's made life much easier, I think, for John. And he responds to our list, what he can do at the moment, what he can't do. Yeah. And he has solved a lot of small problems. And it's after it means everybody has a voice and the word has got out.
Right.
So that's been, I think, actually nearly the big thing.
That's fantastic. I mean, everybody
needs
to know that they're heard, don't they? And
yeah, but it's how you handle it too, like it's important. But no, it was Claudia came up with the idea as a suggestion box, and people have been putting, there's a few in it for the next meeting.
Right.
And John acts on what he can, so I think it's been very good for John because he knows what the people, what our issues are, and a lot of times they're very small things. And instead of everyone talking and giving out about things, it's now going to us, to John, and John sorts out what he can, and John replies. So, and everyone gets a letter, the whole 140. We decided that, in other words, there's nothing private about a resident association. Everyone gets the letter and knows exactly what's happening at every meeting.
Oh, excellent, yeah.
So that's one of the more positive things that have happened. Because before that, you gossip about this and this person, that, and little things like that. But
and a little thing can irritate somebody a lot too.
Oh yeah.
Dealt with.
Yeah, and then stories get exaggerated and this, that, and the other. So instead of everybody running to jump the problems, which we were told from day one, you don't do anyway. You're supposed to ring Dublin.
Okay.
But I think that was the smartest idea. Myself personally, I think that's the best thing that's happened in the community here. And if someone does something, like for instance now, my neighbour Mike Kelleher, he cleaned up all the weeds in the pathway in the polytunnel last week, and so we'll record that at the next meeting. A big thank you to Mike Kelleher. So that's a nice way of a gentle approach and let him know we appreciate what he did.
Yeah,
so that's the way we're sort of doing things.
Really nice, yeah. Really,
yeah.
really nice.
And so we've done that with a few people now. A shout out to such and such a person for doing such and such a thing.
really
And I
is.
think that's the so I think the house, I think that Clúid should go down that route and get resident associations and make lives easier for the, it gives a voice to all the tenants, and it means that that life much easier for John as well. So yeah.
Sounds ideal, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. What do you have here to help build a sense of community? Well, I guess that was definitely part of it.
Yeah, I think that was a big one. We have cards. We have Monday night kind of card game. Only if you go to that again, but you know, it's the people that go to it enjoy it.
Brilliant, yeah.
I go to. I go down. It passes an hour on a Monday night. You know,
Yeah.
or two. You don't have to stay for the 2 hours. You could stay for an hour. So that's another thing. And we have the coffee morning every Tuesday morning. So that's two kind of events we have, as well as the Resident Association. And then the other thing we have is the new raised beds. We got 10 new boxes. And I actually said to John, maybe next year put in another 10, they'll fit in there.
Brilliant.
Because people are using them.
Are they?
Oh, they are, yeah. Yeah, so I grew spinach myself. I just pulled it up now because it came to the end.
Yeah.
But I had plenty of spinach there for a few weeks. And some other people use as well. So if I need a few leaves of lettuce, I can go down to Palton and pick them.
That's ideal, isn't it?
So that's another nice project, you know.
And I know you have communal gardens here that people share work in as well. You put down plants and bulbs and things.
Yeah, well, there's only myself, Tom, Mary does some over here. There is a kind of an issue about, well, I haven't really discussed with John. I know he got flowers now for over in Coill, Darach, or over in Oakwood over here. They arrived today, actually. I put them in with Ruth. We brought them over. They were out here. But, I mean, I go and get stuff myself. I have no issue with it, you know. I bought a few tools as well. But it would be nice. That's where the association, if we get money in, we'll have money for flowers out of that. But sometimes the best approach is to just, by setting an example.
Exactly, just do it and...
Do it, because I notice people, when I do the driveway up to the main office there, I planted 14 lupins recently. But when I was out doing it, people are walking out and they do appreciate, they say to you.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, so sometimes you encourage people by just maybe doing something yourself, you know.
Absolutely, that's a great idea.
Yeah, you can't force people to do anything, you know.
Yeah. And if you could send a message to the decision makers or the developers about what would it be like? What could they do better here, or would they build more of these, or what would be the way forward, you think?
For the developers, for Clúid developers?
Like, do you think this concept of age-friendly housing is a good idea, where people are put together in a block like this?
Yes. I think that they should use this place as a standard. There should be community room. You couldn't improve in this place, really. So I think, you know, I don't know, would you have the money to do, but I think they should go for the highest standards, definitely.
Yeah.
You know, because the buildings are going to be there for, in other words, use the most up-to-date modern installation. Soundproofing, very important. You know, I don't hear my neighbour. He's a TV blaring sometimes.
Really?
But I don't hear it.
That's amazing, isn't it?
Because of the very good soundproof. But, you know, even if it meant an extra few euros, all people want really is a comfortable place to live.
Yeah.
You know, and not to be isolated, a building you put out in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
You know. But I know, for instance, in Ballymun they have Clúid housing, but I'm sure a lot of people, there are people who probably lived in Ballymun. You know, I mean, I can't say much against Clúid. I think they're a very good organisation, really, you know.
Great.
So, but that's the only thing I'd say, standards of buildings, like, and maybe a community room. because people will use it for coffee mornings and for other events.
Yeah. What would your hopes be for future generations living in this kind of housing? Like obviously this is it's a very special place and it's great. So just I suppose more places like this around the country.
Oh yeah.
Like do you think people are? Do you think it's a good idea for people to be able to move out of like maybe a 3-bedroom council house that they grew their family in, to be able to move to someplace like this in later years?
Well, I think more important is the people, like to put the people in the right place. Don't put someone like that was used to living in a city out in the middle of the countryside. I say that's more than. But most people would be fearful, especially if you've been married all your life and you had your routine. All of a sudden you moved into a place you know no one.
Yes.
But you'd get used to that after a week or two, you know.
Yeah. It's like you say, it won't suit everybody, but. I'm
yeah,
sure
but of course there are people then. I've heard that people, for instance, when houses come free here and they look at them and they say, no, I'm not interested because they're waiting to get into, they're looking to get a house.
Oh, right, okay.
You know, I
so
mean...
this will be a compromise.
yeah, so...
Yeah.
It's hard, I mean, I think, should look at the modern apartments and people are paying $2,000 a month. Yeah. And I mean, they wouldn't be, you know, they're just a block of, it's like Ballymun, you know.
Yeah.
So
compared to what you have here, it's like it's amazing, really.
But I suppose another thing too is upstairs, downstairs too. Like obviously older people, there was try and have older people on the ground floor. I think that's very kind of important. Yeah. But I think the design of the buildings for Clúid from when they go forward, like just to think of the residents and living, do they want to be in a basement? There's some basement apartments down there. I was down there one day and I wouldn't fancy living down there, but you get used to it, so. Yeah. But compared to, I have a lovely view. Right. But if I had to go down and I'm looking out onto a garden, it'd be fine after a while, but...
you're spoiled really, you have the penthouse up there.
yeah, so, you know, it's kind of... no, but I think from what I know of Clúid, I think they're doing fantastic. I think they're the biggest housing, kind of charitable housing group in the country. Yeah. They're doing a lot right,
That's good. And is there anything else that I've forgotten now, Colm, that you like to add and throw in there?
Yeah, like for instance, we're getting, I think we was told recently by Claudia, she's on some other group that meets on Zoom, and she brought up about the free toll number. All right. Because a few people, some older people wouldn't be a bit tech savvy. Yeah. And I'd explained to a woman up here that she didn't even know if you get €20 a month on your phone, you could be on for hours on your... Oh, yeah. You know, and they don't know these things. So I think maybe for people coming into Clúid, maybe their family or whatever, that to work it out that like we are getting, because of us bringing this up at our residents meeting, Clúid are given, there's going to be a free toll number. Evidently, according to Claudia, it was our suggestion. So we brought that up, said, look, there's people that won't ring because their credit is going out, which sounds, I mean, kind of unfair, really, you know. It makes life more difficult. You want to, you know, so that's why I think residents associations, they'll learn more from residents association than anybody.
About what's really needed, and I say, it might only be a small thing, but it can be a huge thing.
Oh, very small things, like, you know, 2009, the latch on the door in the polytunnel, it kept fucking sticking the door, and people were trying to, you know, but you know, small things like that, like, and it finally got fixed and everyone's thrilled, you know. And now they're putting a handle, there was no handle on it. Right. So that was brought up, so there's a new handle going to be put, so that you're not pulling the piece of wood trying to open it. Yeah. When you take off the lid, if it's jammed because of the heat, now you have a handle, you just be able to pull it up. Really? They're small things, but it's the small things, take care of the small things, the bigger things, and, you know. So, so that's kind of it, really, no.
Great. Well, that was very interesting, Colm. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I think we've covered a lot of ground there.
Yeah.
Thanks very much.